Hello, friendos. Welcome to this video, I suppose, or whatever. So I wanted to just talk about like cold colors. So this actually is a really interesting thing that some people have asked me about. They asked me like, kind of like why some certain videos of mine just look the way they do. In particular, like they say that a lot of the colors tend to pop, and I wanted to talk about that because that would be really cool to kind of like, just show people how to do things. Now, keep in mind that I am using Final Cut Pro X. This can be applied to virtually any, like, video editing software, and even to some extent, I would say image editing software. Just you just gotta use the tools in those programs and apply the same philosophy that I'm using here. So what this is, by the way, the video that I'm doing here, it's just like I'm doing a slow down remix of not well, yeah, a slow and pitched version of a song from a show called Dot Hack Sign, and I'll be releasing that later on in the future after this video goes up. This is just to show you for like demonstration purposes. So let's talk about Final Cut Pro, like the color settings. So it's usually called color board, and if you don't have this all automatically set up, you can go to your like options down here, click color board in the effects tab. You just basically drag and drop. We don't need to, but that is what it is. So you want to go here, click that button, or click this button. It's basically the same thing. It's like they just pretty much did it like 3 times, I suppose. I always go to exposure first. I don't know why. Many people might advise against that, and that's fine if you do. But I always bring the shadows down at least a little bit, and I try to like be very careful with this because what this does is that it brightens all of the shadows. I don't want to say brightens. That's not the word. It's more like it intensifies all of the shadows. This would be like more brightening the shadows, make it like really foggy looking. Um, but this like brings out the shadows more. It makes them a lot harsher. But by extension, you are getting rid of certain colors, so you got to be super careful with this one. If you need to like counteract that with a balance, you can bring the midtones up a little bit. If you're going for something dark and gritty, I would leave the highlights alone entirely, unless it's like your picture or video is overexposed. Then I would bring the highlights down like quite a bit. But otherwise, in like a setting like this, like just leave the highlights alone. And I would honestly like just don't touch this like at all, unless you super need to. Like you have all three of these in the settings that you want, but you just need to like bring this down a little bit of a hair. This is like if you're gonna do like a micro adjustment to it. So this is where the magic happens in saturation. And so what you're gonna want to do is bring the green way the fuck up. Now you'll notice a few things. Obviously, like for example, the grass is much more like fleshed out, but also the yellows in a sense, because green it's really closely related to yellow, but also blue is, and there's a lot of blue in this picture. So we're gonna bring up blue quite a bit to kind of like really bring out the rest of the image. Now, I'm not really touching red too much, but I'll show you why. Because red, I mean, red, it does look good actually, but sometimes red can really muddy the rest of the picture. So usually I bring red down quite a bit. Uh, that's actually what I typically do. Like, I just tend to bring red down like about halfway or a quarter way. Honestly, like in most photographs and most videos, reds just don't look good. So I tend to bring them down, especially because like a lot of like very specifically human pictures, like pictures of human beings and stuff, it usually makes the face like super red, like demonically, satanically red. And that's what you want to avoid. But for this, actually, it looks really cool. Honestly, I think I like it with like a full saturation. Now, obviously, it's good to like do a little bit of like just trial and error and see what works for some of this stuff. But honestly, like, you just gotta, that's the point. It's like, it's mostly trial and error. But the main takeaway from all of this is, in general, especially if you are doing like human being photographs and stuff, or human being like videos and stuff, you typically want like your settings to look like this or somewhat like this. But yeah, for this one, we're just bringing them all the way up because I just think that looks cool. Now, this is interesting. You typically want you have like four like different settings. So like global, shadow, midtone, and highlights. Shadows are what we talked about earlier, and they are specifically what we made darker in the exposure, which is the shadows here. So the shadows here is going to be the tone that you bring it to. Now there's already a lot of blue here, so you're going to want to look for something that counteracts with the blue. So for instance, purple. But there's a lot of fucking purple in there now, so you want to like bring it down a little bit. Maybe like mix it closer to like between purple and blue. But like you want to like just keep the intensity down just a little bit. Try to find that little sweet spot right in between. And I think that's a good spot. Where it's like here with the highlights, you want to typically go for yellow and or green and or orange, depending on the tone. If it's like a more warm setting, you typically want to go for like yellow and orange. But if it's like more closely to like colder colors, you do want to go towards more green. And that's what we're doing here. Right there. Looks really mystifying almost. Uh, I don't know. Just I would only move global like just super gingerly. Like I wouldn't even like go way too much on that. But yeah, and the midtones, I don't know. It's honestly like just trial and error, honestly, and it's just to your own liking. But but if you're talking about making colors pop, it's all about making sure you focus on matching like the parts of the image with like their respective like aspects. So like the warmer parts of the image should be warmer colors, and then the colder parts of the image should be colder colors. You want to make sure that like blue is where the shades are, or the purple is where the shades are, and you want to make sure that like yellow, orange, and or green is alongside to where like the highlights are, where all of the brighter parts of the image are. So I hope that was helpful. I don't know, like you know, uh, leave a comment, subscribe, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I wish you all luck, and I hope you all have fun doing this. I hope this was helpful. Take care. Bye.